Back in Indianapolis with this NBA Finals series is now knotted up at 2 games apiece. The Western Conference champion Thunder roar back. They're 5-0 this season after a loss in the playoffs. The average margin of victory has been substantial. This game, though, just like Game 3, it was back and forth, high-level hoops. Late in the second quarter, Haliburton hangs, hits. Dr. J did something like this back in the day and people lost their minds. Now it's just the way the game is played. A long 2 from Cason Wallace ties this game at 57. Next Pacer possession, Haliburton, bucket and the foul. Celebrates with the family in the front row, and he said they called the foul. Goes to the free throw line and makes the first free throw he has made in this NBA Finals. They had the lead at the break. They lead by 4, and this was the stretch where it looked like maybe the home team was going to push their nose ahead for good in Game 4. Pascal Siakam buries the 3. The lead swells to 7. And then 3 from who? No stopping Obi Toppin. He hits that 3, and then here it's a corner 3. Bucket good. This building's going wild as the lead is 8. And then Siakam on the drive finds a cutting Toppin who's got all sorts of bounce. It's a 10-point lead, biggest lead they had in this series. But now into the 4th. Down the lane goes Jalen Williams. There was no stopping that all night long. We're tied at 95. Then it's Haliburton, challenged by Holmgren, but the bucket is good. On the other end, those 2 bigs pay off there as Hartenstein tips. Holmgren gathers, back to Shea. Shea ties this game again at 97. 2-point lead for the home team. Haliburton again in attack mode. Got to test paint, and he gets it, and it's a 4-point game. Thunder couldn't buy one from 3. That one is the 3rd of the night, and Shea makes it a 1-point game. Here, Gilgeous-Alexander. That loves to use that off arm to create a little space right there, and then how many steps? They sure wanted to travel in this building. Nothing called. That bucket puts the Thunder in front by 1. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 11 in the final 3 minutes of the game, tied for the second most in the final 3 minutes in a finals game in the last 50 years. His head coach talking about the MVP, SGA, and his impact late.
He's unreal, obviously. Really closed that thing offensively. He and Dub, did a great job there. Just execution-wise, the shot making, he was outstanding. But I just thought the whole team, that was an uphill game against a great team. I mean, this is one of the best teams in the league in the last couple months since All-Star break. And they're a hard team to beat here. They're a hard team to beat, period, obviously. So I just thought we gutted it out on a night where we really didn't have a lot going, especially offensively.
We take notes all game long, and this was one of those nights that for the balance of this evening, it felt like we were going to be talking about the home team. I had 3 games to 1 in this series. They had a 10-point lead late in the 3rd, but Oklahoma City managed to stay in the fight, and when push came to shove, sometimes literally late, they had more and won. How?
I can't really put into words how improbable it is that we're going to a Game 5 tied at 2 with the way that this game was controlled by Indiana for the most part. Look at Oklahoma City's numbers tonight. They had 10 assists as a team. They made 3 threes, including a huge one, I think the biggest shot of the game by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when he cut that lead from 4-1. Here's what happened at the end of this game. They showed up in a big way defensively. Chet Holmgren was sensational during a 3 or 4 possession stretch with his ability to use length to switch out and guard. So their defense showed up the way that we saw it basically all year, but had a very difficult time corralling Indiana all of Game 3, most of Game 4. When they needed it, they tightened up defensively, forced some really bad possessions out of Indiana, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had enough juice in the tank to make big shots. Like, yes, he shuffled his feet on that baseline drive. They missed a travel on that, but there's a number of travels missed throughout the game. There's no question about it. But he had more balance and he had more energy at the end of this game to close the deal.
And let's go back to why. Because early on, as we're sitting here watching, you're like, wow, they took the ball out of his hands after the defensive intensity and pressure we saw from the Pacers in Game 3. It's Williams handling the ball quite a bit, and that was interesting. And do you think that the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't have to handle the ball all night allowed him to have more gas in the tank in those critical final few minutes?
There is no question about it. He barely brought the ball up at all in the first quarter, and we were kind of sitting there watching it, and it looked strange. He spent a lot of possessions off the ball, would go to the corners, come off stagger screen to get it later in the possession, but definitely expended a lot less energy advancing the ball up the floor over the first 3.5 quarters. So he had more when he needed it late. You know, that three that he hit, you talk about a guy being tired at the end of a game on a night when they could not make a three-point shot to keep them in it. He hits the big three. He hits a mid-range. He gets to the line when he has to. He played like an MVP offensively down the stretch, and their defense gave them a chance. I did think Indiana played with some hesitation offensively. You know, you get that way sometimes when you feel a game slipping away a little bit. There was a little bit of hesitancy out of that team offensively, and OKC typically feasts off that if they see you back on your heels.
Siakam didn't touch the ball. It felt like forever in the late game scenario, and part of that is the defense of the Thunder, certainly, but you just have to wonder how he doesn't at least get a touch from a guy that's got a length advantage on a lot of people and has shown the capability to take and make big shots. That felt like a miss.
Definitely. And he has, again, for their team, I think Pascal Siakam has the most favorable matchups, most trips up the floor because he gets smaller guys on him. He can shoot over the top, get something quality when he needs it. Again, it felt very perimeter-based those last 3 or 4 possessions for Indiana. They were trying to get switches and beat guys downhill, but Chet Holmgren was keeping guards in front and using that length to deter anything in the paint.
Doris Burke sits down with me, and Doris, I was just telling Tim that, you know, we take all these notes throughout the game, and so much of the direction of what I expected this postgame to be was the fatigue of the Thunder and how the Pacers' style is got this team shook. And instead, they find solid footing. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander makes big buckets. They win this game. You had the best seat in the house. What struck you about how they did it?
So the first thing I'm going to say is something that Marc Daigneault did going back to the first quarter. 9 straight games where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays the entire 12 minutes of the first quarter. What happened tonight, Scott?
He took him out at 8-minute mark, 6-minute mark?
That's exactly right. So he got 4 minutes rest that he didn't normally get. So 3 less minutes in the first half. There's a moment where, you know, we make note of the fact that in the second half, he lifted him for 45 seconds, but Legs will tell you this, Richard Jefferson will tell you that. You're off your feet for 45 seconds. He gets the free throws late. Well, now you're taking some 9-10 seconds and you're getting your breath. Masterful handling of a guy who I thought looked fatigued the last game, and he was absolutely brilliant. And the other thing that happened to manage him, how many times did you see Jalen Williams run the offense tonight?
It was the first thing we wrote down is, and Tim and I are watching, like, wow, he's off the ball.
Yes, he is. There were so many things, and then Alex Caruso, there's a play early in the second half where, again, they're just not, their defense isn't getting to the other team. They're not doing the normal things we're accustomed to. But Alex Caruso is flying around. He gets an offensive rebound put back. I felt like every shot Alex Caruso made tonight felt weighty, Scott. Even the ones in the first half.
That's well put. Well put. And that's why I asked him a moment ago. I mean, obviously it's Shai's team, but a guy like Caruso, a veteran, you can lead in many ways. And I felt like when this game was on the verge of slipping away, Caruso, among a number of players for the Thunder, wouldn't allow it to be. And I thought late, Doris, in the third, and I wrote this down, It's a 10-point game. Obi Toppin got fouled, went to the line, missed a pair.
Yes.
They had the ball, I think, 3 times with a chance to go up 12, maybe 13. Now, is that enough to say goodnight? No, but there was a chance to really stretch the lead, and they were not able to do so. How significant was that?
Richard Jefferson and I talk all the time about basketball, and he tells me that when you are trying to win a basketball game late, that difference you just noted between being up 8 versus being up 12 is a massive difference for the team trying to make their way back.
Because it's a mountain you're trying to climb.
That's exactly right. And a couple things. Can we just keep perspective on the fact that this is the second youngest team to ever make the NBA Finals? They were battling uphill all night. But the fact that they had faced this exact situation in the Denver series, Marc Daigneault keeps telling me, we are still learning. All of these experiences are new. So to have the toughness and the grit to finally get your defense to hold in that fourth quarter, it was special. I know Legs is so excited about the plays he saw Chet Holmgren made, like a lot of different things, but your 3 stars came through in a big way.
For certain. I mean, Shea had 0 threes the entire night until the one that cut a 4-point lead to 1. And then he hit the bucket that puts them up 1. They don't trail again. They won on a night where he had 0 assists, and they as a team made 3 threes. That's hard to fathom. One of those inexplicable things from the box score. But we head back to OKC for a big one on Monday, Doris. Look forward to seeing you there.
I just love how excited you are, because you're as excited as we are.
Well, I mean, you love this. We're literally in the arena, and we just saw greatness. Cool. And one of these teams is going to win a championship.
Really
DB,
cool.
I appreciate you.
Good.
A large lead evaporated on their home floor, and the Pacers are now tied 2 games apiece. Tyrese Haliburton on the Pacers need to improve in those final 12 minutes.
Game so much.
Yeah, we got to do a better job. I got to do a better job of keeping pace in the game. I thought I did a much better job of that last game, especially down the stretch, keeping pace, getting rebounds, and really pushing. I think we got to do a better job of when we do get stops, getting out and running. A lot of times in that fourth, we were fouling too much, taking the ball out, having to, kind of run something versus, just random basketball. So I got to do a better job there. Watch film, see where I can get better. But yeah, that's on me. I got to get us playing faster down the stretch, and I'll be better game 5.
Tony up front.
Tyrese, you're up 4 with just 3 minutes to go in the finals. Give that one away. How do you feel right now? How does that one sit with you?
It's frustrating, of course. You want to win that game. Especially a game at home where, like you said, you have the lead late. But that's just not how the cookie crumbled today. And so take a shower, watch film, see where we can get better, and be ready to go for game 5. I feel like myself personally, I could be a lot better for us as a group, and we just got to get more stops down the stretch. 17-point fourth quarter, after the offensive success we had all game, I think is really, shows we got to do a better job moving the ball, and I think that starts with me. So, we got to be ready to go game 5. Obviously going into a hostile environment, we got to be ready to play, and, for us to win, we're going to have to win 1 down there. So, we got to be ready to go, and we got a couple days to sit on this, watch film, see where we can get better, and I'm excited about the challenge.
Jamal Collier from ESPN. The first 3 quarters, you guys, what did you like about the defensive effort that you guys had, especially on Shea? I think he didn't have an assist in the game, and then kind of what do you think also allowed him to get loose late in the fourth quarter? Yeah,
I thought we did a great job of mixing things up. Drew obviously did a great job. Shep in his minutes, Double A, I think we're just trying to make it as tough as we can on him. We got to do a better job of not fouling. I think that's, where a lot of our mistakes came. But I thought we did a good job. But he still ends up with 35. He's a tough cover. So we just gotta collectively keep making it hard on him, keep rebounding and running.
Accountability on both sides. I think it's been impressive to hear from these young teams. 35 points in the first for the Pacers, 17 in the fourth. Mark Spears alongside. It's playoff tradition. Great to be face-to-face for the first time, my friend. The head coach of the Thunder, Marc Daigneault, you wanted to mention something about him. What specifically stood out post-game?
When I was leaving the locker room, he said, we got dogs. And when you think about dogs, right, they're barking, they're yelling. They ain't that kind of dog. They're the dog that follows you home and doesn't say nothing. Mm-hmm. You got to worry about them. And this is a really, really cerebral team. But they're also an even kill team. And what Coach also told me is Sam Presti, their GM, purposely got a team together that's even kill, doesn't panic, and they come from good families, he said. He said, you got to get to know their families. They're all good families. I met SGA's dad. He's a little higher than even kill. He got some energy, but he said that is the reason why they're able to come back and they don't panic.
And it seems like it's evident to everybody that is a family, and it's real, that group. And you do see a scene in the locker room for even keeled as they are, I should say. I have to believe there's a little bit of emotion after winning this game this way.
Yeah, it's funny. I hit up Hartenstein, walked in, sat next to him, and he goes, phew. He did take a sigh of relief, but he said that they've grown. They've learned a lot in this series, and he said they learned a lot from the Pacers, like their poise, what they were able to do in Game 1 to come back. And he said that the one thing that they do that's important is they hold each other accountable, like you're talking, but they don't yell to hold each other accountable. He said the only time that they yell is when the effort isn't at the high enough level. But basically, it's like we hold each other accountable and nobody takes it personal. We know what we're trying to do.
Did you share the assessment that I know Legs and I had watching this game, that this Thunder team looked, speaking of dogs, they looked dog tired. And this Pacer team looked to have them on the ropes. The ability to withstand that literal storm and come out of here 2-2, to me, is what's most impressive. You sensed that as well?
I sensed that, but SGA was the guy we saw in the second round. He's the MVP that we saw. He's the one that hit the big threes, got him back, led the team. You know, J-Dub was great too.
Without question.
But I think what's important in basketball is you need like a closer like baseball. Somebody and go ahead.
No, 11 in the final 3 minutes. I mean, that's historic level stuff. We haven't seen that in 50 years.
That's MVP stuff.
Yeah, and
he reminded us why he's so special.
And it could be ultimately championship stuff. You can't win 4 if you don't win Game 2. Their second game, I should say, the way they did in Game 4. Mark, I appreciate the time. We'll do it again soon. Perk, I think uphill game is an apt description. It felt like the Thunder were Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill and it would roll back down. I didn't know that they could climb the hill. How'd they do it?
I'm going to tell you something. We watched this young team grow right in front of our eyes, especially their 2 young superstars in SGA and Jalen Williams. They weathered the storm in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and even in the fourth quarter. And I thought Jalen Williams did a great job of setting the tone, attacking, getting downhill. He had 8 free throws in the first half. And then all of a sudden, when they looked defeated at a certain point in the third quarter, here comes SGA to take them home, right? And they got it done on both ends of the floor. Let me say this about Chet Holmgren.
Go ahead.
Monster double-double, but the way that he slid those puppies defensively was impressive as hell in the fourth quarter. To me, the big 3 showed up, and this was a legacy moment for those guys to come in and get this win in a tough environment.
Well, I mean, 3-1, and you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And instead, they just, again, they steady themselves. And at some point, this young team, if you're going to win a championship, Perk, you're going to face moments of adversity. They stared that down. If you're on the Pacer side and you're looking at the totality of this night, where you largely played from ahead, what do you take from this with you on the road Monday?
Well, I mean, you got to match athleticism with athleticism. And I thought tonight they did an excellent job. When Miles Turner was on the floor, the Thunder were picking on him. They were better with O.B. Toppin on the floor. And I saw when O.B. Toppin went to the bench, I said the Thunder got it. But let me tell you, Scott, we was wondering, when was OKC going to find their offense when it mattered the most in the clutch? And all of a sudden, we saw the 2-man game between J-Dub and SGA at the top of the key, and they ran it perfectly to get the mismatch.
They looked really stagnant for a lot of this game. They couldn't get anything going on the offensive end, and I thought the Caruso minutes and buckets really kept them in a place where they could still win this game.
He's the Swiss Army knife.
Right.
He'll cut you everywhere but loose. I mean, he did every single thing you would want. He's the champion. We got to remember, he was a crucial part of winning that championship for the Los Angeles Lakers, and he stepped up, not only making big shots, but being the force. And shout out to Lou Dort. He don't get enough credit, but in that fourth quarter, I thought his pressure on Tyrese Haliburton blowing up screens was also huge. And look, we got a 7-game series on our hand.
Feels that way, doesn't it? And again, the Thunder's ability to, I mean, it wasn't like they were rope-a-dope. Shout out to the late, great Muhammad Ali. But they looked fatigued, and they were able to find the energy, particularly from Shea late. Again, those 11 in the final 3 minutes.
I mean, that's what he do. One thing we know about this group, they're going to bounce back. They learn from film. But this was their most impressive win of the season. In the postseason, in my opinion, Scott, they shot 3 for 17 from the three.
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP, didn't have an assist on the night. I said to Alex, if I told you that before, he said, I would wonder why I'm sitting here with you. Because that's not the recipe for a victory. That's the thing to me that's most impressive. Nothing about this really says this is a Thunder win, and yet it is. Final thought from you.
And sometimes you got to have ugly wins. That's what we call some of these wins, ugly wins, where you got to get it in the trenches. One more guy that showed up, Scott, Kendrick Williams. He showed up. His defense, those early baskets he had, he did some outstanding job on Pascal Siakam. He came in. He only had 11 minutes, but they were impactful. I'm looking forward to Game 5. It's going to be rocking, and this is what NBA Finals is all about.
Yeah.
These are the games we look forward to.
Both these games in this building were, I thought, incredibly high level, incredible effort and 1-2 on both sides, and it feels like probably the right accounting at this point, tied at 2 games apiece. Perk, appreciate you. Travel safe.
You.
I'm on fire. It's 88 over here.